You know, we keep hearing the rhetoric on social media about rent versus buy. And of course, when that conversation comes into play, people are talking about Xbox Game Pass. I don't personally understand how this is even a thing. Like the value proposition is so obscene at this point that if you are not seeing it, it's because you want to console war, right? And you want to rah your favorite box. Listen, I'm not here to argue with anybody. If you love PlayStation, freaking that's awesome, man. Have as much fun as you would or as I would on Xbox or Switch 2, right? No one's here to yuck your yum. I want that to be clear. But I do think that there is something to be said about that not only being a false narrative, but of course, one of the other narratives is somehow or another um games going into Xbox Game Pass stifles sales for games. And if there's one thing that we know is not true, is well, it's that statement because Expedition 33 is a studio that is made up of 30 human beings. That's it, right? They put out a game. This is a passion project for the team. It has incredible story, music, set pieces, combat, graphics. I mean, it honestly has everything you could possibly want. And it didn't even have a $70 price point. Like this is one of those games I honestly believe, and it's not so much a topic today. I think we're going to revisit this maybe towards the end of the year. But I think Sandfall Interactive I believe that's who made the game, correct? I think that their development of this game, it's $50 million investment. Now, $50 million is a lot of money, but when you consider games like Spider-Man 2, 315 million, right? We've seen big budgeted games, especially from Sony, because that's what they do, right? I think a game like this, through its investment into production, right? Response and overall graphics and quality really put the industry on notice. I think it's going to be hard to argue $150 million budget for a game anymore, because again, this game comes in at $49.99 for the regular version and $59.99 for the deluxe edition. And even at the deluxe edition price at $60, it's still not what Nintendo just did with 80. It's not 70 that was done when this generation started, a la the EAs and the Sony Interactive Entertainments and everyone else, right? This game comes $10 and $20 under, and the regular edition, again, if you just want to buy the game and play the game, it's $50. You're talking about a $30 difference when you look at Nintendo Switch 2 games and a $20 difference when you look at everyone else's games. Again, not so much the topic today, but it had to be mentioned. Now, I do have something I want to bring into the conversation about the Xbox Game Pass narrative that's consistently being run out there. Now, obviously, Bucky, who is the community manager for Pal World. Well, I mean, he is here, there, and everywhere, right? Like that guy is consistently on the socials. He's consistently updating what's going on with them versus Nintendo, and of course, all of the updates that come the way of Pal World and where you can play it, which is pretty much everywhere. So he put out a tweet. He actually put out two that I thought was incredibly interesting, and I want to bring it into the conversation because I really do believe, in my opinion, that it does kind of squash, or at least should squash, this buy versus rent ridiculousness. So Bucky from Pal World, who again, he's the community manager, says Expedition 33 is the latest game to get unwillingly dragged through the gaming Twitter as people debate the viability for Xbox Game Pass. I feel like I've just a little more knowledge on the topic than most, so I'll just say yes. Yes, it's very worth having your game on Xbox Game Pass. And he goes on to say, because I would imagine that there were some people that were being a little, asshole-ish, if you will, for him defending Xbox Game Pass. Well, he goes on to say this very simply. I speak from the POV of an indie, by the way. I have no experience working in the AAA space, so I'm not sure what sort of deals are cooked up there. But we have shipped 2 games on Xbox Game Pass, and we are very happy with both. So all I can say is that I'm happy with the experience that I had. Another banger tweet, he goes on to say, but 20 plus notifications of people arguing every few minutes is silly, so now I'm going to have to mute it. And there you go. He says simply, he finishes all of that up with, enjoy yourself, gamers. Now, again, Fuzzy Belvedere, this is one of those situations where it is. I don't understand the rent versus buy thing. I think that people are so hung up on saying that I bought a game versus getting a game in your service. And I'm just talking about the game itself. I'm not even making mention of the fact that, most games that I get through Xbox Game Pass, I buy the $30 upgrade. Sometimes it's a $10 upgrade, kind of like South of Midnight. There was a $10 upgrade for Expedition 33, but I went up buying the game. I bought the deluxe edition because I want to support the dev. They're a small team. I know they got the bag from Microsoft, but I wanted to help that team with their sales. So I bought the game. I'm supporting that game through purchasing it. But I didn't buy it because I was somehow backed into the corner of buy versus rent. Folks, look, you can buy your games on Game Pass. If you get a game from there, you get it at a 10% discount. Again, you can go buy the game. But where I just kind of scratch my head with this is that, let's just say, for instance, you do get a game on Game Pass. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to leave eventually. Well, if it's a third-party game, probably. But if it's a first-party game from the 30-plus studios that Xbox has and owns, no, it's not going to leave. It's always going to be there, unlike PlayStation, which takes games out of their service on a regular basis, but no one ever says anything. Let's talk about rent versus buy and how something like Expedition 33, even though it's in Game Pass day and date, somehow sold over 1 million copies in 3 days across 3 platforms, continues to buzz about Game of the Year, and more importantly, has stolen the zeitgeist when it comes to talking about Xbox, because Xbox teamed up with them, made this deal. It's in the service day and date. A lot of people are playing it through the service, as a lot of people do. Let's break it down, man.
Well, I just want to say, I guess a lot of people, like you said, forget that there is that option to buy. They forget that there's this option within this service, which, granted, all right, Netflix doesn't have a option to buy. If you, depending on your Prime setup, you do have an option to buy or rent or, go through streaming and stuff like that, at least to some extent, but not for everything. Some things are not available for purchase, which is weird. But when it comes to like Game Pass, look at it as like a car. After you lease the car for, let's say, 2 years, can you still buy it? Sure. Now, depending on the residual, you might be better off not buying it, just for the fact that it's worth more, after the 2 years of use than what it would probably be to go ahead and buy it, type of thing. But there are plenty of cars now, especially considering some of the values fluctuate, where you lease a car for 2 years, you pay your money, which is roughly about the same. Yeah, you pay a lower monthly payment, but you may pay a slightly higher insurance payment and a few other things here and there, as far as the upkeep of the car, and you're limited to mileage or whatever. But in a lot of cases, you might make out better leasing the car and then buying it at the end of the lease. Or what I've done in the past is lease the car, and then if it's a higher value than what the trade-in value would be, go ahead and sell it outright and then pocket that money, which basically gives me back my down payment and usually a little extra. So, but back to gaming. All of that being said, the thing I like the most about Game Pass is when it comes to a first party game, I can play it the day it releases. I don't have to wait. I don't have to worry about FOMO. I mean, the closest thing would be the upgrades, which in a lot of cases, if it's a game like Forza Horizon, I'm doing the upgrade for the extra cars, the extra cash, a few extra perks and things like that. But by the time I wind up buying it, I usually wait until it's written ready to be delisted. And at that point, Well, in the past, they've given it away for free. So basically, you only paid the upgrade price and whatever your subscription was, but you weren't just getting that subscription for that one game. You were getting that subscription for all the games from Xbox, as well as a lot of the third parties that they put in there. So with that being said, you pay what, maybe $4.95 for the game. You did the $30 upgrade. You paid $35 for a $100 game that you had access to the same time as somebody buying it for $100. I don't see a problem with that. Me personally, looking at my pocket, I'd rather save that, $65 and put it towards something else than, pay the 100 and be like, oh, I own this game, but I could have paid less and still played it at the same time as it released. That's silly to me. But I've done that with a lot of games. A lot of games have it where if you do the upgrade, or let's say you don't wait, or you don't do the upgrade, or there is no upgrade as far as like early day access, your subscription fee is covering for hundreds of games, not an individual game. And then if you should choose to buy it, which I did this with Psychonauts 2, did this with South of Midnight, did this with what was it, the 12 12 minutes was what it was called. And there was a whole bunch of other
about that. Yes.
A whole bunch of other smaller games where it's like, I don't know if I want to buy this. And it's great to have that service to be able to try it out without it being a demo. You're able to play the full game, get your achievement points, get, your 1,000 gamer score and stuff on it. And at that point, if you like that game enough, you can go ahead and buy it at a discount. You're still in the grand scheme of things, because your subscription isn't for one game. You're still paying less than if you bought it day one. But I don't understand why people don't see that or realize that that's an option. If you're all about buying your games, that's great. How vocal are you to these gaming companies about your game that you quote unquote own just being a license? Because technically, if you read the user agreement, you don't own it. And there's a lot of games, even when they're completely on disc, that are useless to play offline. So I don't understand why they choose to do the rent versus buy argument as opposed to digital rights ownership. That would be a better argument. Instead of arguing amongst ourselves and going in this circular, roundabout for no reason, why don't we just push these companies to say, hey, I bought this game digitally. I'm looking at you, Ubisoft, and I want to continue playing it. If I own this console for 20 years later, I want to be able to still play this game without having to, jump through hoops. Like, you guys should be able to make it so the game is playable. That would be the better argument. If they were, the people that are all about this rent versus own were about that life, maybe I would be on board. But they're just talking about foolishness where you do still have the option to buy. They can choose not to, do the rental. I can choose not to buy. But in a lot of cases, when I choose to buy, I'm saving money from the get-go and playing it at the day it launches, as opposed to waiting until it's on sale. There's a lot of people that wait on until it's on sale. Is that worse? Or is that something that shouldn't be included in the argument? Support the devs. Why don't you support it when the game is released? Why did you wait 6 months until it was half price or whatever? But they're not about that either. So it's just foolishness to me. If you're against renting, good. Continue to buy your games. I don't understand why you would be so invested in an argument on something that you choose not to do.
Right.
I don't know. I have no affinity to want to skydive. I'm not running out there telling people it's foolish to skydive. You're risking your life. Why are you getting a perfectly good airplane and to jump out of it? That's the same foolish energy that you get from these people about renting when obviously they don't want to do it. So what is the argument about? But I don't know. It's silly to me. But getting to the whole grand scheme of things when it comes to developers, as we've heard, many developers, with maybe few exceptions, have had a good experience with Game Pass. The handful that didn't have a good experience with Game Pass either tried again with a different contract, because it seems like there's different approaches, whether it's upfront money or partial money upfront, and then you go ahead and have it where you're getting like residuals on how many downloads or how many active players. So with that freedom for the devs to choose what plan may work best for them, and if they think they got a solid game that is going to sell, it might be worthwhile taking some upfront money and then getting the residuals on the back end,
Right.
because you're still getting money as the game increases in popularity. And with Xbox, it doesn't seem like they're restricting you from selling it elsewhere. You can sell it at Steam or Epic or PlayStation or Switch or Nintendo, I should say. It doesn't seem like there's that detriment to their business model. What seems to be more of a detriment, which people seem to forget or ignore or choose to carry a blind eye to, is when there's exclusive deals on a player base that's a lot larger than the norm, but then the game doesn't really get any traction. Hey, I'm looking at you, Square, and we see how that played out. We're seeing how they're now not about that life of putting exclusives on PlayStation, because, hey, for those 75 million plus consoles or however many, and they're only selling 1 or 2 million copies, it's not in their best interest. That works out worse. But if they had made the game available and possibly put in Game Pass, they would have had some upfront money to kind of cover expenses as far as the production costs. Plus, they would be free to sell it elsewhere as well and probably make all of their money back and then some. But people keep on focusing on what they consider a negative that I don't know why they even bother. Like if there's a TV show that I don't like, I'm not sitting up there like, oh, this TV show sucks and continue watching it. No, I'm going to change the channel or change what I'm streaming or pick a different movie to watch or do something else. But they insist, oh, I don't like renting games. You should own your games. And I'm going to keep on arguing that point until I'm blue in the face, but for no reason. So foolishness is what it is. But, I've rambled enough.
No, I actually want to add one additional context for something I learned from Fuzzy. He used to say all the time, I'm actually surprised you didn't use it, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, and if you are in the camp of rent versus buy and you are that adamant about, making yourself vocal, you're just looking like a boo, in my opinion. Like, you can buy your games, go buy them physically, go buy them digitally. But guess what? You can buy them on Xbox Game Pass at a discount. And or if you upgrade to a game, I don't know, like for instance, Doom: The Dark Ages, which we're going to get into in a second, you can get the $30 upgrade, play it. It's in Game Pass forever, folks. It's not going anywhere. And I think really, someone actually just said something in the chat here. Who was it? It was a really phenomenal point. Let me just see if I could find it. Someone, again, just shout out your name so because the chat's flying. They literally said that if PlayStation had day and date games, this wouldn't even be a conversation. And I think you're absolutely onto something. But the fact that, and again, this is where it gets a little tricky. Sony currently, Fuzzy, takes games out of their service, especially if there is a remake coming out. That's something that they do. They did it with Spider-Man 1. They did it with The Last of Us. They did it with quite a few of them. They did it with God of War. So when they want to sell you some stuff, some old stuff, they take the stuff out of your service, which, by the way, went up in price. You're paying a premium, and you don't get the premium. You get some premium stuff, right? There are some day-and-date games in there, like Blueprints, happen to release on Game Pass and PlayStation at the same time, which is great for the developer. They took 2 bags rather than just 1. So it's a win, right? But the problem with day and date for Sony is I don't think that's ever going to happen personally. And the issue at hand would be, how long would they keep that game in the service? See, with Xbox, when a game like Doom, a game like Oblivion, a game like any of their first parties, they're going to be in their day and date. Now, does that apply to all second-party deals like Ninja Gaiden 2 Black? Is that always going to be in there? I honestly don't know, but you're going to get it in there for quite a while. Ninja Gaiden 4 is going to be in there for quite a while. How long does Expedition 33 stay in there? I honestly don't know because I don't have the contract in front of me, Fuzzy. But I think that when you're trying to use that, and I've seen it, and that's why I'm bringing it up. People are trying to use that as a part of their argument. I mean, my God, like I'm at a bit of a loss for words because apparently there is just no winning the argument, which I'm not trying to do. I'm not trying to win anything here. I'm winning as a consumer. I put a tweet out. I got a lot of really negative, nasty MFs in there when I said this is what gaming looks like. This is what winning looks like, because I'm paid up until April 8th, 2028.
Yeah.
I mean, I've won, folks. I don't have to worry about games coming to Xbox Game Pass for 3 years. Yeah, I'm a winner, chicken dinner. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, that's what winning looks like. It's a value proposition, folks. It's a company that is a corporation that, yes, they want to make money, they want to make their investors happy, but they also want to keep their customers, and they're doing different things. And when you do different things for the Belvedere, you start to get a lot of hate. And obviously the hate for Xbox Game Pass, about it ruining the industry, it about getting gamers that no longer nobody wants to buy anything because they're so used to getting games for free. Folks, we are still paying for a service. I don't know. Any additional context before we get out of here?
There's just so many different layers. Like I think the biggest thing is I know that there were some that were talking about how Quantum Break had left, but that was due to like a death in a contracted thing that they had to redo, but it was put back pretty much immediately. It's not like they released a remaster at that time to resell you the game before putting it back in the service type of deal. But I think the grand scheme of things is that these gamers that are about the buy and not rent life, instead of enjoying the actual games, like I don't care if people in the cul-de-sac that I'm in are renting versus me owning my house. I don't care. I'm not out there like, you should buy that house instead of renting. So I don't know if these people really are like that outside of gaming, or is this just some, random thing that they want to focus on or hyper focus on, just because it makes no sense in other aspects of things where you can rent and you can buy, and they're not making any big to do about those things either. Like I look at it this way. What I paid for Game Pass, I think since 2017 up to now, has been just under $200 for 3 accounts of Game Pass Ultimate. And I'm good until, March of 2028. So for $200, I have access for all those years. My sons have access on their PC and on their phone, and I have the same. And I still bought games. Like I've spent in the past 2 years, $3,500 with Steam. I usually average about $1,500 a year with Xbox and or PlayStation, a mix of games throughout the year. But I'm loading up more so on PC now, hopefully with the intention that Steam will be part of Xbox, so I'll have an even bigger library. But I'm still using Game Pass for what I choose to, test other games. Like if I was to, buy or pay for every game that I've played in the past year, I think I did the math. It was like over 6,000. I'm not spending $6,000 a year on games. I'm sorry. I am an enthusiast, but not that much of an enthusiast, especially when I have the opportunity to play a lot of those games through a service. But I still buy the games, or I still buy DLC, or I still buy accessories. So I'm more about putting my money where it matters most to me and where I get the most out of it. If buying is where you get the most out of your money, good on you. I'm going to continue to do a bit of both and pretty much kind of double my worth of money into my favorite hobby. And that's what I think we should all be focused on, is the hobby as opposed to how we get there. But that's another conversation for another day.